Well, I certainly remember about the first time I had my chart done. It was as if I was being seen and understood for the first time in my life. And the amazing thing about it was being seen and understood by someone who really didn't know me. Not someone I'd grown up with, who knew me socially, absolutely did not know me, and somehow was able to gather a likeness of me and an understanding of me from all of these pieces that prior to then I did not have access to. And I'd have to say the very first feeling that I had during my first chart reading was I was completely blown away. And I remember feeling a vibrating, and a warmth and a fire sort of felt like it got lit, because there was this tool that I was really unaware of that could teach me so much about me. And here was someone, Kelly Phipps, who awakened me to it, and I was just completely blown away. And I am certain that that was 15 years ago, 12 years ago, well over a decade. And I can honestly say now that because of the beginning of feeling that understood, it really sparked something in me to really begin to look into this and try to learn myself how to understand not only me but others in my life. And so really astrology just gave me, for lack of a better way of describing it, a higher vision of me and a higher vision of everyone and everything in my life. I think prior to having this as a tool in my life, I looked at things much more from a psychological standpoint. More, this is where I grew up, these were my parents, this is what the culture was like, this is what I was taught. I don't know that I really even gave that much credence to I'm my own individual, I'm made a certain way. I would say that astrology helped me understand that the uniqueness of each of us. In my own personal case, why in the world am I the way I am? Am I this way because, of culture? Am I this way because of genetics? And all of those things I had looked at, and they were helpful, but it just seemed like to me that there was another piece that was missing. And it was truly from a higher perspective that I was looking for a way to see myself as a part of everything, a strong individual, minuscule but important to the whole, but important that I was made the way I am, so that in this lifetime I can really become more fully who I am, and more fully who I am. That's more so, it's probably the way I should say it. But I think that in studying things the way I had prior to astrology, from a psychological standpoint, I think at times I might have looked at things about myself and maybe been a little bit too critical, and thinking that, okay, I've got way too much fire. I'm so fired up I don't even know what to do with all of this fire. And so connecting with Kelly the first time and him reading my chart, and he was impassioned about my fire, and that helped me then understand that it wasn't something that was bad at all, that in fact, just because my particular culture may not have understood me, and I didn't understand me, that there were people, there were others who would see that fire and want to fan the flames and encourage me with it instead of trying to put it out. So it gave me a sense of appreciation of me, and that first reading blew me away, and in the most wonderful of way, it taught me to love myself even more. And I don't care what you study, if anything helps you learn to love yourself a little bit more and bring you a little more inner peace about who you are, I think that the world would be very lucky if all of us were looking into our astrology charts and coming to find some self-acceptance deep within, so that we could then turn it around and share that our own self-acceptance with the acceptance of all of those around us. Wouldn't the world be a much nicer place?
What could you say to the people that think that astrology is just sun signs? Like, can you go say something about it? It's not.
I
it's
guess
more than just sun signs.
I guess I should say too that while I was looking at things from other perspectives. I also did check my horoscope in the newspaper, and I think that's what a lot of people think astrology. They mistakenly think that it's just this, you read I'm a Leo and that fixes you at that point. And to that I would say, because I'm a layman at this, I'm at the tip of the iceberg of just learning some of these things. But what I've come to understand is we are so multi-layered, that there is so much to each of us, and that the sun sign is a piece of the puzzle. But if that's the only piece you look at, you're missing an incredible mosaic of who you are as an individual. Through that first chart reading, when I got an understanding too that my moon sign made a difference, that my rising, my ascendant made a difference. What's funny is that I happen to be a Leo sun, Leo rising, and Sagittarius moon, so I'm triple fire. So even that helped me. Even that helped me understand that there are pieces. All of the pieces fit together, but it isn't just one to look at. And now I'm a big proponent of astrology, and I live it and study it and talk about it to friends, and they say, most skeptically, some people do, that's all fine and everything, but I just don't believe in it. And the most simple things that I usually bring up to broaden their horizon a little bit is, fishermen plan when to go fishing by the phases of the moon because of the tides. They're well aware of what pull the moon has on their way of making a living, and you really can't argue that. It is true, just like farmers know to do planting around the different phases of the moons, and that everything is tied together so naturally and beautifully. So this isn't like you've just come up with these ideas that they're really important now. This is eons and centuries of people that have been learning the natural rhythms of things and seeing our direct relation to them. So I always talk about fishermen and about farmers, and for the most part you really can't argue that these things are true. And even if you don't believe in astrology, most of the time people sort of, oh, okay, you got me on that one. But to me that's just a small bit of it. That the most remarkable is that on a daily basis I often can find that the rhythm of my body, the rhythm of my emotions, everything is so tied together. And if I look at astrology and I see what's going on that day, I can oftentimes pinpoint, that's why I'm feeling this way. We're in a water sign. I'm going to cry a little bit more than this fiery person usually does. That there are rhythms to everything, and that the astrology and looking at my chart and daily as I do, it's not going to tell me exactly what's going to happen. It's merely saying, do you want to know what the sort of cosmic weather is for the day? Just check the cosmic weather report and get a sense of what's going to be happening, and then decide. You've got free will. We get to do whatever we want with it. You can pay attention to it, or you can not pay attention to it. But I'm finding at midlife that working with the flow is so much more beneficial than going against it. But how can you know what the flow is if you don't pay attention to what's going on cosmically? We pay attention to the weather. We decide what we're going to do each day, what we're going to wear, how we're going to transport ourselves from one place to another. What are we going to do for that day based on the weather? This is just a higher viewing of that. And you either look at that as yet another tool to your daily life, your weekly, monthly, yearly life, or you choose to not look at that, and that's fine. But to me, it seems like an incredibly valuable tool to help me to not only know myself better, to know other people better, and to find those times that are most appropriate for me to utilize my energy in the best possible way that I possibly can to bring more fully who I am to this earth. These are the things that I have to look at every day to help me make that happen.
In terms of your bookstore that you had and all, and the whole evolving consciousness on the planet, with a sort of, not necessarily the new age, but like where we're going with that. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I could probably ramble.
The trends, the spiritual trends on the planet.
Trends of
Age
the
of
planet.
Aquarius.
Well, even if you had never heard that there is a great awakening happening, if you didn't know anything about the Mayan calendar, if you had no sense of understanding whatsoever about what's appearing to be happening on this planet right now, I think you sort of know. I think there's a sense that people have of needing meaning and needing closeness with community and needing something more than the surface level that our culture and really the world has sort of evolved to. That it's like a breaking point, that a great waking up from us walking around in our sleep. And I saw it most especially in my Key West bookstore. We had a bookstore and tea room called Kindred Spirit. And I guess I would have to say, too, that on the front end of that, early on in a decade in Key West, was when I had my chart read. And from that, everything just started blossoming beautifully for me. That it was a deep spiritual awakening for me as an individual. And then connecting with like-minded people, kindred spirits, that when we got in community and we were all learning about life and learning about spirit and learning about nature and learning about divination and all of the amazing things that a bookstore holds, all the treats and treasures, that what we saw on a daily basis was, this is mainstream now. This is not fringe, whacked, the woo-woo stuff. People used to call it that even as recent as 5 years ago. That it's become mainstream because, at least mainstream America, I can speak to, everybody is looking for something that they haven't been able to find up until now. And they're finding it alone in their homes when they read a book, when they turn on the TV and get to see shows, like Oprah, for instance, when they are communing in the carpool as moms go and wait for their children at school. Everybody's buzzing about things that are exciting and happening, and people are waking up. It's not just in the vortex areas that you hear about where the energy centers are really vibrating strongly and people are really getting ignited. That I really see that it's happening across the board, certainly mainstream America. And it's not that the churches aren't doing their jobs, it's just that there is more work to do, especially with people that don't already have spiritual communities. And they're looking and searching, and when not able to find the spiritual community that works best for them, they'll create their own. And when people get together with the intent of love and compassion and kindness, and consciousness, paying attention to what they do, what they think, what they say, how they treat each other, and how they treat the planet. To me, those are the signs that show me that everything is changing for the better and is blossoming. I liken it to how I felt after I first had my chart reading, that a spark got lit in me, and what has been opening now for quite some time is the beauty of my unique and individual and authentic spirit. And I think that what's happening, not just in the United States, but I see it happening globally, is a beautiful unfolding of Mother Nature at her finest being healed as people are loving themselves and learning to love each other.
Yeah, Kalogabrand said, your life lived is your religion.
And we didn't get taught that. We didn't get taught. The religion that I got taught growing up in Kentucky and being Baptist was a far cry from what I'm learning now. I believe that the community was meaning to do well. I really believe that. And it served its purpose. It got me questioning God, wondering about what is God and what puts all this together and why are we here and what are we supposed to do with it. So the roots of it have come from that, but I think that what's happening from those roots we've all come from are are really, it's this beautiful, amazing tree of life that is reaching towards the heavens and reaching out to everyone, and that it's this inquisitiveness and this desire to understand and to connect and love and heal, that these are the things that I'm seeing with everybody I meet these days, and that just tells me it's collective, it's happening, and it's really, really beautiful.
Reminds me of what Jesus said when the Pharisees told him, like, well, then what's your substitute if you want to replace us? He said, well, for the laws of Moses, the Torah, and Jesus just said, there's only two main principles, really: love God with all your mind, heart, and spirit, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's
Absolutely.
Really simple.
And I'm glad you said that too, because the Bible verse of love your neighbor as yourself is important. But I also think that, at least in my lifetime, I have struggled to flip-flop that around a little bit and to say, I need to learn to love myself as much as I can love my neighbor. Because for some of us, we're taught to be so self-sacrificing, and you get praise for doing that even. But to me, only loving your neighbor, if you're doing that to the extent that you're also not balancing that with loving yourself, then I think you've only got half the equation. I think that there is a deep need in our world for people to learn that you are precious and special exactly the way you are. You were made the way you are because the world needs you to be exactly who you are. And I really think that in essence is what astrology has done for me. That it has given me a sense of, in this crazy jumbled mix-up of who I am, with all of my idiosyncrasies and wonderful things and contradictions, that I was brought here to be me in the way that I am made. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's really wonderful. So get in there, figure out really who you are and what you want to be doing, and bring that beautiful present to the world, because you were designed to do this. You don't get told that in anywhere that I ever experienced except for astrology. And so it cheered me on greatly to learn to love me better. I was already doing the love your neighbor part great. I really needed obviously some guidance as to how to really truly love and embrace myself, who I am, and all my inconsistencies and wonderment.
It's kind of like you have to blossom on your own before you can really give the best love of yourself to the neighbor.
I believe that to be true, and I believe that most of us need that as the focus. I think that what will naturally come as you begin to have an acceptance of self, what naturally will happen is just your arms open, and you will embrace everyone because you've been able to embrace yourself.
It's like put your own breathing mask on before trying to help your neighbor.
It's perfect. That's a perfect analogy, because we, especially, and I can say this, I think especially as women, we are taught in this culture to be so self-sacrificing, even now, as mothers, as sisters, as grandmothers, as aunts, and we
wife.
Give and wife. Well, I didn't say the wife because I'm not one. Isn't that funny? I've left that one out. But we've been groomed. I mean, part of it is that I believe we're made this way, but we've also been groomed to be givers, and I think that's great to an extent. Not if you're forgetting yourself.
Totally. What is the there's the wife.
Speaking of wives.
Yeah. I was going to say, why do you think women are more gravitate to astrology than men?
Ugh. Well, I think we just answered that. I mean, my answer to that is because it is the single most...
Could you repeat the question
okay.
so that they'll know what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'll wait till she drives up.
Okay,
You're
yeah.
right, because it'll...
This is
Is
good.
this going
This is
good?
This is perfect. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. I thought about getting a light. I'll have a bunch of lights. I'll have a whole lighting kit. But I kind of like how there's a little bit of shadow in your
that's
face.
all right.
A little.
Whatever.
It's kind of cool. It's like accents your moon square Pluto. It makes you deep,
Honey, I'm home. She probably can't hear you. I probably parked in her place.
All right. We got lots of room down there.
Look at you all in your yuppie cars. I'm loving. That is
funny, huh?
Never did I think I would see that.
Oh, me having
A
cool
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. I know, SUV.
Yuppie vehicle.
It actually gets 22 miles a gallon.
I love it. I don't know. Are you still taping me?
Yeah. Hey, Christina.
She hasn't opened the door yet. She's looking at your mail.
Oh, okay. She'll be there for 30 minutes then.
She will?
Gemini, man.
I don't want to get started if we have to
That's
stop
all
right in the middle of it.
She won't. She'll be quiet.
Um,
So why do you think women are more into astrology than guys? I mean, women will go get their chart done or whatever, but the guys, when behind doors, will be like, "What do they say?"
yeah. Well, I think probably women are more drawn to astrology than men right now because women have often been the ones that don't mind looking behind the curtain. I think women are not as frightened or as intimidated by the arts, the things that, the mysteries, maybe is the way I would say it, that women, we are so mysterious anyway. Our world, our way of being in the world, our cycles, our everything about us is mysterious. And so I think we're not as frightened by that. I think instead we are quite the opposite. We're intrigued. And I think that if you find that women are more drawn to astrology right now, it's because I think we're the ones that are really searching for ways to find self-acceptance. And if other women have experienced what I did about astrology, which was an incredible sense of learning who I am and why I matter, that collectively women are searching for those empowering arts, because we are being asked at this time to stand up and speak and be who we truly are, because I believe that Mother Earth is asking her kin to do that. And certainly I believe she's doing that with men as well. But I would say that if you tell me you're seeing more women astrology customers, I'm not at all surprised. We're seeking out those places where we can plug in, because we're ready. We're ready to do what we're here to do our part. And we can't do that unless we feel empowered.
And can you talk about being you don't have to learn astrology to use astrology, and how do you use it, like with your transits, working with your...
Oh my God. Well, I mean, how do I use astrology?
Well, just talk about,
Yeah.
you don't have to be an astrologer to use astrology. 'Cause
That's
a lot of
what I
people
was-
might think it's so overwhelming, I don't want to learn all that.
Well, and so I repeat the question, how do I use astrology in my life? I am not an astrologer. I am a regular person who, went to school, went to college, worked in corporate America, has done a stint as an entrepreneur, am currently waiting to find out what my next instructions are for my next creative project. I don't have to be an astrologer who has been studying this for years. I don't have to understand what every planet is. I don't have to understand the relationship of all the planets. But I'm wise enough to know that it made a difference to me early on to help me understand who I was. And what I have found each year is I get my chart done every single year, so that it sort of gives me a sense of what is coming up. But even on a more daily basis, because that's always good to do it like for a year in advance, to say, here are some of the things that you might find you'll be dealing with.
It's not about predicting the future.
Not predicting.
But most people think that,
People think...
I mean, everybody that walks by and says, they go, oh, I really want to know, but I'm so afraid, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know what's going to happen. Well, hello, it isn't about knowing what's going to happen. What you're going to learn from astrology, if you get your chart done, is here are possibilities. And if you know that you want to do a creative project, say write a book, doesn't it make sense to sort of look at what the cosmic flow is for the year to decide when is the best time to really be burrowing in and focusing seriously on doing the writing and staying incredibly disciplined, and that there will come a time when the complete opposite will happen and you need to put yourself out there in a bigger way, meeting people, connecting, trying to find agents, promoting yourself, that there are times to plan certain things that are going to work much better because you're going to be working with the flow of the universe. So how do I use it on a day-to-day basis? I look at several different points of reference every single day of my life. just to see what their interpretation is of what's going on cosmically that day. And I look with one eye and listen with one ear. I mean, I do believe that in essence we all know deep down, we all know our own truth. And we all are incredibly intuitive. And so I may read a chart or read a particular interpretation for a day that it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't resonate. And if that's the case, I don't chuck the book and say I'm giving up on astrology. I just say, for that given day, that given person may have interpreted it in a way that it didn't resonate with me. It still is fascinating. It still opens my mind constantly to what are the possibilities for today.
Yeah, because there's like general forecasts of the astrological weather for everybody, but can you talk about the difference between that and actually looking at exact transits to your natal chart?
Right, that's right. I was thinking earlier that I know that we have, within astrology, 12 different houses and, all sorts of symbolism, but I keep coming back to the fact that I think of my chart as my house, and that all of the different, in astrology, houses are more like rooms. And so I think of it as sort of what's going on in which room in my house today. And that just helps me. It helps me have an image to look at and think about, that it's just pieces that fit together. And on any particular day, what am I wondering about regarding possibilities? I'm going to make my choice. I have free will, and I'm going to do what I want with it. But for me, it's a wonderful piece of information, depending on what I have energy for that day. And it just helps me decide how I'm going to maneuver through my day, or not. On any given day, I might look at it and say, oh, well, that's great and everything, and I'm still going to walk out the door and still see what happens. But I think overall, it does help me remember to have a sense of wonderment about the possibilities of every single day, and that every day could be a magical and amazing experience for us if we would just be open to that. If you want to get up and think it's going to be a drab, dull day and wonder what's going to happen to me, you can certainly look at life that way. Astrology does quite the opposite for me. It causes me to look up and to wonder and question, not with fear, but with excitement, and to wonder what the possibilities are going to unfold for the day. What could happen today? There could be great miracles.
It's kind of like being a villager living on the edge of a river, and the river keeps sending you unique stuff each day. You're like, what's coming down the river today?
That's right. But we aren't taught to look at it that way, because we're taught to be such strong individuals. We're in control. We're here to make things happen.
You got your investment portfolio and your life insurance, and
I've got a house.
You're protected against everything.
Yeah, and that's fine, because that is empowering on one hand. But I do think that it's the balance of that our culture is starved for the mystery and the power of nature, and how we are significant as individuals on one hand, and we are incredibly insignificant on the other. But to find that the tension between the two of those doesn't cause us to live in fear, or to run out and boldly use up all of our energy, in a destructive way, but to consider the tension of both. We're important and we're insignificant. And the balance somewhere in there is, how can you become who you are, really who you are, and how can you bring to the world something that will help instead of hurt?
It's almost like we're like consciousness, and then we crystallize into form. And I mean, if we get poked and 8 pints of blood leaves, we're dead. We're out of here. So what do we do while we're here?
Yeah.
Growing in this form, and why are we here? It's
Yeah.
like, what is your whole take on, a lifetime as a poem of being?
Yeah. Rarely do we get posed that question, though. And again, it's what astrology helped do for me. It helped me craft the big question that I like to live with. Am I being fully me? And if I'm not, where are those places where I'm getting blocked? And how can I unblock? And if I can't do it by myself, and usually I can't, I have to call on someone to help me, that how can I begin to release whatever is getting in my way of me being fully who I am? And when I'm doing that, I believe, well, I know because it keeps happening in my life, that when I am just being me, synchronicities and miracles and wonderful flow happens, and I get shown the way to go. I get led, I get guided, I get still and quiet, and I just have a knowingness. All of us have that. All of us have that within us. We just have to be quiet a little bit and be still and be quiet and allow the universe, or whomever you like to call your guidance, to lead the way, because you are here for a reason. You are here for a reason, and I'm here for a reason. We're here to do things individually and collectively.
I always tell people when I do the readings, like you were born in response to a spiritual need on the planet, but most people actualize 10% of that. That's because right. They don't know.
Well, because no. First of all, no one ever tells you that beautiful statement you just said. That you were called to come here for a reason. Now go find that reason. But you matter. You've got to know from the very beginning, you mattered. Don't give up on yourself. And I'm grateful for astrology. I know this much, if even that. But it kind of takes us full circle back to you don't have to be a professor at it. You don't have to be a lifelong student of astrology. You don't have to understand the weather patterns. You don't have to be a weatherman. But come on, let's use the information that comes from that. Use it practically. That there are all sorts of theories and understandings that are far beyond what I even want to try to put into this head, but I'm wise enough to know to use the information that I can glean from it.
Wait, one more question. Is there anything I should ask you that I don't know to ask you?
Is there anything to ask me that you don't know? Is this a trick question?
No. It's just a chance for you to express anything you want to express.
I'm just thinking,
How would you define astrology to a Joe Schmo on the street, for instance?
Well, I think the way that I've defined astrology to any number of people who've had no access whatsoever other than in the newspaper, I think the way that I have defined astrology in the past is...
Start with astrology is?
Yeah. Astrology is a cosmic fingerprint of the exact moment, place, and time that you happen to come through and land on this planet. And that the significance of those details, the August 10th, 1962, in Ashland, Kentucky at 5:20 a.m. is a significant moment in time for me, because that's when I landed. However, you happen to believe that people come into being, that... Oh, wait a minute until the car goes by. So the exact moment that I came into being, astrology teaches me that is significant, that is my fingerprint, that is my unique makeup, what has made me who I am, and all of those influences mattered, and each had their own color, each had its own texture, each had a part to play in the being that I began as, and that was a template for Kelly Everman. And through astrology, I get to dig deeper and learn more about all of the different layers of not just a couple of, not just where the sun was, not just where the ascendant was, or where the moon was, where everything in the whole galaxy was, is significant to that moment I happened to come through. That it influenced and colored and textured and gave me a hint, a whisper of an essence of who I am. That's why I think astrology is so significant for each individual.
It's almost like as if that moment was designed for your soul to fit into.
Yeah.